everybody and my fellow bandwagoneers. I'm your host of the Fins Bandwagon, Evan Posner, and usually with me is Michael Vogel. But just like the Miami Dolphins last season, he's inconsistent with his appearances on the Fins Bandwagon.
Oh, don't do that.
So today, Bobby Finstock, my brother from my mother, is joining me because he loves to spend time with me. And I'm doing all the hosting duties, so he gets to chill back for 45 minutes and just have some fun. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing good, man. Usually we're screaming at each other on post game. That's usually when you people could find us together. But no, we are here for a fun edition of the Fins Bandwagon. Again, welcome everybody for tuning in. The Fins Bandwagon on the Finstock Sports Network. Smash that like and subscribe button. We are rising up the boards. It's getting very exciting here.
Yeah.
Miami fans in general. I'm talking just Miami sports fans. If you're not just a Dolphins fan, but if you're a Panther fan, disappointing ends to the season, but you got to be hopeful and encouraged that these guys made it to the championship game. You got to hope that the Dolphins follow suit and hopefully actually win it, but I'm encouraged to be a Miami sports fan.
But the big difference, I want to let everybody know that between the Dolphins and the Panthers and the Heat is the Heat and the Florida Panthers. Props to both of them for what they did. But you've got 8 seeds went against Giants in the finals who were much deeper than them, and they fell on their own swords. They were just too injured, too battered, and they just could not compete. They were just gassed. But the difference with the Dolphins and our expectations on the bandwagon and Fins Nation is that the Dolphins aren't going to be doing that. We're not going to be cusping into the playoffs. We're not going to be that underdog story. We expect big things from our Miami Dolphins team, and that we're not going to be that team that has to rise up the ranks. Yes, we haven't made the playoffs. We haven't been successful over the last 20 years, but we expect to have a huge skyrocketing season this year and not just sneak in. If we sneak in, we're all going to be somewhat disappointed in that. So for me, I think that's going to be the big difference with the Miami Dolphins. Ender, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, buddy.
Yeah, Ender's in the house. Good to see you. Brought the A team. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, we are the A team.
Oh, except we're in the wrong sides here, but it's okay.
Oh, you want me to flip you?
No. You're running it, baby. I'm over here, man. It's all good.
Canada over the U.S. Whoa. It does work well. Canada does stand over the U.S., eh? You do realize that in terms of the pedigree. We're above you. You ever realize that on the map? We're always looking down at the Americans.
To get yourself canceled.
That's true. Okay. So tonight's my topic of the show, I thought, because I've been reading a little bit about the fact that some people, and actually an NFL player talked about it today, was mentioned in the last 24 hours, that he believes the Miami Dolphins have the best team on paper. Maybe he's trying to get the Dolphins' attention because he wants to play for them next season, but the guy who actually said it was Leonard Fournette. And he actually said it. And then when you think about it, it's not a incorrect statement because of what the Miami Dolphins have done. If you look at what they've done over the last 2 seasons, in terms of last season bringing in Tyreek Hill and bringing in Bradley Chubb and revamping and growing within the offense, and then this year you have Vic Fangio, you have Jalen Ramsey, you have David Long, you're adding Chosen Anderson. Keep on adding all these players, the development of Jalen Waddle. The team is very, very deep, more deep than any other time we've ever been as Dolphin fans. So my question to you, Bobby, it was going to be to Vogel, is what do you believe and do you agree with the fact, and then I'll go for it, that the Miami Dolphins on paper as it stands now has a top 3-4 roster in the NFL before they even start this season in terms of level of coaching staff and level of elite players on their team?
Ooh, that's a specific question.
But I'm always specific. I always give you the hard question.
Yeah. And, because if you're looking just at the fire, the stars, if you're just looking at the main stars, and your Tyreek and Waddle and, who knows what happens with the running back room, and you got Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. Okay, I get it. And then you put 2 in there as well. You could do that. I get it. But you got to also look at the linebackers. You got to look at the O-line. There's question marks there. I think you could say top 5. I'm not going to say the best roster, maybe the best roster in a long time for the Dolphins, but not the best roster in the NFL.
So tell me a roster that has that many players who this time next year are potential Pro Bowlers. Because you could look at the stars of the Bills, you could look at the stars of the Ravens, you can look at the stars of the Chiefs, you can look at the stars of the Eagles. When you go down the list, and if I were to name you the stars of that position, of the Miami Dolphins against the stars of that team. Maybe the roster as a team is the best, but in terms of actual stars, unlike 2-3 years ago, we easily could have 10 Pro. Where's Bobby go? You're pulling a Bogle. You could easily have 10 Pro Bowlers on this team just from the star power of this team, right? Like if you were to take we can do that a little bit later. But for me, as an overall star power, the team had in so many different places, and you said this on your show, and people have said this on many other shows. If you add another star player at the elite running back position, people are going to have much higher expectations in this team, and they're already high enough for us. We have high expectations of our team. So for me, are they? I do believe they have a top 2 or 3 on paper, not in terms of what they've proven. They haven't proven anything yet. But if you look at the actual star power of this team at that position, you probably could not name in many of these positions more than 2 or 3 players that are better than the duos or the trios or the individual players that we have on that particular position at their level. That's what I think Leonard Fournette is trying to say, and that's what I believe. I believe that unlike any other year, 3 years ago, you could maybe name one player who might make the Pro Bowl and sneak in, and that was X. After that, since before that, there was no one really. And you'd have to go back to Marino and Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown and maybe Brandon Marshall when he was good and maybe Mike Wallace when he had a good. But we never had. And then you had Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas and all that. But besides that, we basically have those. The amount of stars we've had in the last 20 years, actual stars, is less than the amount of actual superstar players we have on our team right now. Because that's what I believe.
Yeah, so stars, absolutely. I mean, but we saw what's up, Cap. But we saw, what stars can do. Yeah, they could probably get you into the playoffs. They probably get you a couple playoff runs against inferior teams. But it's really those teams that are deep, And I would not say Miami's a deep team. They are deep at some positions, but they're not deep all around. Again, you go back to the offensive line, which is pretty damn important. We got to think about the question mark on Connor Williams. I appreciate what Leonard Fournette said. I think it's important from an NFL player to say something like that. Yeah, you think of any interior motive, maybe he's thinking like, oh well, hey, if they don't get Dalvin Cook, I'm right here. They need some short yardage, type back. But again, yeah, on paper, if you look at the star power, absolutely. You can't ignore a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Ramsey or a Bradley Chubb, maybe, or those type of guys, or an Armstead when healthy. But I don't want to say the smarter person, but the person, where you really look at it, you could see where, yeah, okay, I probably, that maybe on paper for the Dolphins, it's the most talented team. But again, it's hard for me to say, hey, this is the most talented team on paper in the NFL. Yeah, you brought up some good teams as a comparison to say, hey, what teams are we thinking? Yeah, I think the Eagles are probably the most talented. I mean, overall, if you look at the roster overall, you're like, damn. You look at Miami's, Tyreek, Waddle. Again, you could put Tua there. You could based off his play at the beginning. Armstead. We don't know what's going to happen with Connor Williams, but him and Armstead are the only ones that would get kind of maybe like you think of Pro Bowl, right?
Hunt, I think Hunt's going to get there.
Hunt could get there. He could. Now, yeah, he's not a Pro Bowl player, but he's reliable. But on paper, he's not jumping out to anybody outside of Dolphin fans. Christian,
I think I guarantee if someone knew he was available, someone would.
NFL circles are different. We're talking that NFL circles are different. People who work in the NFL know who's good, knows who's not.
People have high expectations of Robert Hunt.
But the average fan, if we're talking the average
fan, AJ, they talk about Eichenberg. They in a negative way. They don't bring up Hunt. Hunt's that the right guard position is his. Like if he someone would have to shockingly beat him out for it. He had that Connor Williams position is center if he's there. Armstead is left tackle. Hunt. Only those two interchangeable positions. That's it.
Yeah.
Bobby, would you mind if I drop the link tonight if Cap wants to join? You're cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Guys, I'm dropping the link. Anyone who wants to jump on the bandwagon, you're welcome.
Yeah, come on for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why not?
Whatever you guys want. So, no, for me, I believe that, yes, we know they're not done. But for me right now, to know that Jalen Ramsey, to know that Xavier Howard, to know that Javon Holland, to know that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, Emmanuel Ogba. I understand David Long. I understand the position area where we might have a few holes, but at the same time, the star power of this team, unlike last year, is we've actually added more depth to the area. Like our wide receiver core is deeper than it was last year. 1 second. Welcome, Cap. What's up, buddy?
Cap for Life's in the house. Let him get himself started.
Hey, guys.
What's up, Cap?
Hey, long time no talk, boys. How you guys doing, man?
You're always welcome on the bandwagon.
Doing all right, brother. How you doing?
Good, good. If you hear me a little bit staticky, sorry, my phone is, my phone is my phone.
No
But
problem.
Good, man.
yeah, man,
No
just curious about, the way you guys are breaking it down and just, having the fact knowing that the roster is not really actually complete. I mean, how are you going to cramp all these guys that haven't been restructured or taken care of in-house with only $12 million to play with?
Because if you actually sign Connor Williams,
what's up, Crazy Dolphin? Thank you for tuning in, man.
If you actually sign Christian Wilkins and you actually sign Connor Williams and you extend them, you gain more cap space. That's the point. Like that's what I think they're waiting to do. So when they both do get signed, the 13 million can actually grow into greater cap space. They've already signed all their necessary draftees, so now they have to just set those two contracts up. And I think he's just trying to play it out maybe into training camp to see how things fall. Maybe he's trying to solidify the running back position in the next little bit, which we'll talk about next. But that's how they're going to do it. And like we've always talked about, they can always convert certain contracts with signing bonuses and give them upfront money, and we can pull, and that's what Ross can do. But the benefit, I don't know. I guess they're just waiting to buy their time to see how the Dalvin Cook or another running back might play out, or who might. But in the end, I truly believe that if Wilkins and Williams will be signed to extensions, which will actually give them more cap space. That's what I think.
Yeah, because usually what they'll do is they'll put it backloaded and rather front loaded, and they'll give them a bigger bonus. Yeah. Which will lower the cap, and then will give Miami, or they lower the cap hit, which would give Miami a little more cap to play with. Not saying they're going to overspend it. I think this whole situation with Dalvin Cook, I know that's what some people allude to a lot, because they don't want to overpay, which I don't think, again, Miami doesn't have to overpay. They got a running back room that's compatible in the NFL. I know we're waiting to see what A-Chain could do in regular season. I know everybody's talking about minicamp, but minicamp's minicamp. I'm not worried about that. Let's see the kid in preseason. Let's see him in the regular season. But this whole situation where no one is offering that type of money and he's waiting to get that type of money, I think that plays in Miami's favor. We know he likes Miami. We know he wants to play in the home state. As long as the longer this continues, it pulls in Miami's favor. I think what I'm comfortable with, and Evan and I have talked about this in the past, is $7 million. I'm okay with $7 million for Dalvin Cook, and he's worth that. We're not paying that to Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson. They're 2.2. I think, or 2 something.
We pay more to Dalvin Cook than we would the other 4.
Well, and it's Dalvin Cook who's had 1,000
or
yards,
1,100 yard seasons.
Yeah, so
4 straight Pro Bowls. He said something. Dalvin Cook said something that was really interesting, so we can bring that up now. He said he wants to solidify something with his family. Like he's in.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I get the aspect of kicking the can down the road. I mean, we've restructured 4 key guys last season to kick the can down the road this past season. And it's just, you're going to keep doing that and doing that. That's fine. But it's just, for me, it's like at the end of the day, all right, well, is it going to get to the point where somebody's just going to say, all right, well, last year the wide receiving core was projected to be the same way, and someone went and paid Christian Kirk freaking boatloads of millions and broke the market doing that, and nobody expected that. Like, do you see a dark horse team just saying, hey, F it, we're going to give an extra couple of millions just to solidify a starting bell cow and then screw up the whole market in that aspect?
I don't think that's going to have to go for it, Bobby.
No, never say never, right? I mean, it's happened before. You just said it. You're right. Maybe a team surprises us, surprises Miami, or surprises anybody. Maybe it even surprises Dalvin Cook and his agent and say, hey, look, we really could use you. And then maybe Dalvin Cook wants to wait till preseason and if somebody goes down, somebody gets desperate and wants to sign him. Then somebody, but in that type of situation, this late in the process, when everyone's cap is so dwindled down, especially contenders. I don't know which contender. I don't have the salary cap. I know some of the teams that are on the lower end of the NFL that are not expected to do something. They got some cap room. They could break the bank and surprise some people. But the teams that are going to make some noise, that are expected to make noise, like the Dolphins, for instance, like these other teams, they don't have a lot of cap. So
the Cowboys, the Jets.
Yeah, the difference with the Cowboys and the Jets, though, which all I can say is that the Jets, Breece Hall is their guy. They're going to create a little bit of a headache with Breece Hall, who is
Cowboys is the one I'd be more. Cowboys make a lot of sense, but I think they want to see Tony Pollard.
They want Pollard to lead also. The difference with the Dolphins is that Raheem Mostert is a situational guy. Jeff Wilson's a situation. They're not 3-down guys. None of the guys on this team right now in the running back room are 3-down backs. Dalvin Cook is a 3-down back. If he comes into Miami, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, he will be the 3-down back. He will be the lead back. That's the one thing for me. And also the number one thing more than any other place, zero tax. So whatever he's going to, if you give him $7 million, that $7 million with Miami is actually a greater value than getting $7 million anywhere else. And it has a chance to win. So for me, if he wants to be around stars, if he wants to be home, get the crowd behind him, if he wants to be beloved, there's no better place for him to be than in Miami. So for me, we need to get Dalvin Cook in my mind. The reason why I'm dead set on Dalvin Cook and why I think I will be frustrated with Chris Greer, and you know how I defend Chris Greer, Bobby, and Cappy heard me, is because you tried to trade for him in the offseason. You have decided you tried to go after DeAndre Swift. Now I understand DeAndre Swift he got a lot of upfront money. He's only making just under $2 million with Philly, and I understand that's a less of a cap hit. But at the same time, you're in this what we call 2-year window. There's a reason why you gave Tua his 5th-year option. There's a reason why Tyreek Hill's contract is the way it is. You're going to end up having to pay Jalen Phillips a lot of money. You're going to end up having to pay Jalen Waddle a lot of money. You're getting to that point in the next 2 years where if you don't go for it now and really go for it now, you're hurting yourself. You're not going to need Dalvin Cook in a year from now. You're going to need Dalvin Cook now. So for me, if he ends up losing, if the Miami Dolphins, if he ends up signing somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $7 million, or $5 to $7 million, $10 million up front, whatever it is, because he's getting $2 million guaranteed from the Bengals, I will be on the bandwagon ripping Chris Greer. Because for me, you're in the position now with all the stars that you have on your team. There's a reason why you went to go make Vic Fangio the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league. There's a reason why you went to go sign a $20 million. You went to trade for a $20 million corner. There's a reason why you did all these things. There's a reason why last year you went to get Tyreek Hill. There's a reason why you're doing all these things. So why are you not trying to do that in the running back room? You're happy with your running back room? Jeff Wilson was great right at the beginning of the trade deadline. Raheem Mostert is a great first down back, but after that he sort of slows down. Ahmed and Gaskin are complementary players. They don't do much. And A-Chain is a rookie. You saw that, even if he looks great in training camp. Look at the rookies that we had last year in Channing Tindall and Easy E. They didn't adjust. Just because he's doing great in winning camp doesn't mean he's going to be a star during training camp. So for me, I will be truly upset with the Miami Dolphins front office if Dalvin Cook is out there and they lose out on him and the salary was a reasonable price and they weren't willing to sacrifice that money when they know they have the cap space to do it.
Let me ask.
They better not go into this season with cap space. It will drive you bananas.
Well, talking about cap, let me ask Cap a question. What do you want Miami to do, Cap? I mean, would you want them to go after a Dalvin Cook, or you think, hey, no, we need to use that money somewhere else?
Yeah, for me, and I've been vocal on the situation because it just seems to me every time around this season you get a player trying to hold this team hostage for contract negotiations or being used for leverage. I mean, it's every season. Everybody wants to come to Miami because everybody knows Miami's, the name to use for leverage and contract negotiation talk. So that for me is one issue. But for me, I would like for us to hold on to the capital we got left. And I'm the main guy that always said, hey, man, stop being afraid to be great. Go after all these guys. But we're in a situation right now where we went after all these guys defensively. The money we do have, I would like to allocate it during, maybe week 8 during the trade deadline when we have all these bodies falling down with no backup plan.
Yeah, but I think they Dalvin Cook to a 7-year contract, $7 million a year, and they gave him 3-year, $21 million, and they give him $10 million up front. If $11 million only equals out maybe $3-4 million on the cap a year, they're still left with $9 million. The Dalvin Cook is not going to eat up most of your cap space, and you can still go.
I'm just saying, like last season, you kicked the can down with Seiler, didn't pay him, and Seiler's asking for a contract again. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I understand, but I think he's going to be. He's not going to cost nearly. But you could replace a Sealer. Like that's the thing about the Miami Dolphins. They've never treated the defensive line. I forget who it was, but they have not re-signed. I think they'll end up re-signing him. Wilkins is. I actually think they're going to be more likely to re-sign Sealer than they are Wilkins because they've never actually re-signed a defensive tackle that they've drafted in forever or long. And I do think in the end they'll all balance out because personally for me, I think I do not see. I see other people. I see other members of the team want to take a little bit less if they have the chance to win. I don't see Christian Wilkins being so blinded by the fact that he's this guy who was the first guy in 2018 to be picked under Greer to say, I need my $20 million. If he knows that the team is going after a winner for the next 2 years, and it means he has to take $16 million, $17 million, I think he'll do it.
So I just want to say, first off, I understand what Cap is saying, and I get it. Yeah. And it's true. It's not the first time that a player reportedly, right? Because it's trust issues too with players. Especially during this time where a star player or a potential star player, whatever, say, "Hey, I might be interested in Dolphins." Of course, they get their agents to start talking or whatever else, and fans get excited. Team maybe makes a move, and then the Dolphins are in on it, and then another team comes up and gives them a lot more, and then Miami's left with their hands out, and the other way is, of course, then if you give him this money, you shorten yourself. How could you go ahead and take care of your own? There's a two-end thing to that. First off, let's say we don't, right? Let's say we hold on to our money. And again, I don't think the cap we have, I agree with Evan. If we resign Christian Wilkins, which I believe we will, I think it will happen. If we extend Christian Wilkins and Connor Williams, and let's say even Zach Sealer, even though if we do Christian Wilkins, I think Zach Sealer will have to wait possibly until next season. The cap is going to rise a little bit because I believe they would lower the first year in order to have more money. And let's say it's not for Dalvin Cook. Let's say Dalvin Cook, Miami just says, no, we're not interested. He signs, maybe goes to the I would say maybe the Jets over the Cowboys, just because I think the Cowboys are more into Pollard. Then what you could use that money for, and what you were saying, the trade deadline cap, is during the preseason when players are getting cut or when players, fall off, I call those acorns. You remember, I think about the Chad Pennington year when Chad Pennington was cut from the Jets because they got Brett Favre, and the Dolphins were going to roll into that season with Josh McCown, with Chad Henne as the backup. And then when Chad Pennington got cut, Miami had money to sign him right away. They cut McCown and they rolled with Chad Pennington. And, that was, of course, the story was we won our AFC East and we went to the playoffs that year. So I get that. That's one thing where it's like, okay, if we don't spend the money, then we're going to have that money. But also, Evan, you could tell me if I'm off bar here with what you're saying, but I agree with you, is I'm about winning a championship. This team is built.
You converted me.
This team is about winning now, and I'm not worried about next season. I'm not worried about getting guys stay. No, I'm worried about building this team up to make it the best team possible now to win now, because I think we have that. I'm more worried about the quarterback just because of regards of health. But I think this team is right now ready to win. That if you could go get yourself a legitimate star running back, because we don't know, Mozart, when he's good, he could go off. He had 800 some odd yards last year, 3 touchdowns, but he got hurt. Jeff Wilson was great after when we got him in the trade deadline. He was great for 2 games, and then he fell off the cliff. A-Chain, look, hopes are high, and they should be. He's fast. He's a special talent coming out of the draft. But with rookies, you never know. With Dalvin Cook, you know what type of back he is. And then you don't have him as your feature. You have him as your featured back, but then you got these other guys with him. It creates a better environment and it balances out the offense. So, again, if we don't get Dalvin Cook, I'm not mad, and I think that's why the Dolphins are being patient. I know. But I think the Dolphins are being patient because of the running back room that they have. They know they could be successful if they balance everything out, running and passing. But again, that's why I won't be mad, but also because you could use that money for those falling courts. Maybe you say, hey, maybe we go into preseason, Dalvin Cook signs somewhere else, and you go, and then maybe the running back room's just struggling. They're not doing anything. You go, damn, dude, we're going to struggle this year with the running game. And they go out and they go get a Leonard Fournette. Or they go get some guy. Maybe Dalvin Cook gets signed by the Jets, and the Jets cut one of their running backs. Or maybe the Cowboys sign Dalvin Cook, and they say, hey, we need to get rid of Tony Pollard. That's whatever. But still, what I'm saying is, then you could use the money for something like that.
So, Cap, what do you think?
I understand everybody's point of view when it comes to this, and trust me, I'm the main guy that you've always heard say, bell cow. We need it. Yes. We need all the bodies we can get. But if you can get me a rookie that's solidified in the SEC, that's an all-around player, especially on special teams, where Dalvin Cook doesn't excel in that aspect, and you're getting him on the cheap, because everybody's talking and raving about the quarterback contract we got with Tua. Imagine we do that with a running back on the cheap, not overpaying, and then at the same time taking care of the offensive line that everybody always complains about every year. But when the time comes to do something about it, you want to go and get another running back. I mean, for me, hey, like you said, you can never have enough firepower. You just need to be a coach and learn how to deal with all those players when you have them. But for me, man, I just feel like, if you already went on the capital and you spent all the capital, try to save some for when the rainy day comes, in case if we end up losing key players in mid-season.
Yeah, but my thoughts are on that is that if you sign a Dalvin Cook, you sort of has that perspective of what the Bucs started doing when Brady was there. Was a lot of people are going to want to follow. So you might see a Taylor Lewan who to come here on the cheap if you want the chance to win. You might see other guys who are complementary players on the O-line want to come here because you signed a Dalvin Cook. For me, the main reason why, Bobby, who was I hardest on last year? Can you remember? Besides Jason Sanders, who was I hard on last year?
Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel loves his stars. No matter what he tried to do, he loves superstars. What was Mike McDaniel? You love to say he was the prisoner of
the passing game.
There's a reason why Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are no longer in San Francisco. Because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch realized these are guys, they're nice players. But Christian McCaffrey is much better.
That's true.
So, if you give him Dalvin Cook, he can't ignore Dalvin Cook. He can ignore Raheem Mostert, and he can ignore Jeff Wilson, Savon Ahmed, Devon Achane, and for $2 million guys, they're not going to be stars anywhere. Dalvin Cook, you have to give him the rock because he's proven to you that with the rock, he is going to be successful and he is going to do well. And he's a first cut runner. He fits actually perfectly into the scheme that Mike McDaniel is trying to implement. So for me, on that perspective, it doesn't make any sense. And also, you've tried to trade for him. He's out there. Go make him happy. Find something that works. He's home. I don't care what you have to do. Go get him because you want to know what? The moment you sign him, the perspective of the Miami Dolphins from the talking heads, they're going to go from playoff team to Super Bowl contender. You sign Dalvin Cook, the perspective of they have for them is going to jump. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen.
Can I rebut you though on that? It says, and just to say, it's that I'm not worried about what someone's outlook on Miami is. I'm care about.
I believe it.
No, I get it. My thing is, it's like I get Cap's point, and we don't. Again, I don't know how Achane's going to play in the NFL in the regular season. My hopes are high for him, but unlike I know with Miami, it's a little different. But usually, running backs more than a quarterback gets beat up pretty bad. That's why Raheem Mostert hasn't lasted a year. That's why Jeff Wilson hasn't lasted a year. They get beat up pretty damn bad. Miami is in a prime position that, let's say if they did get another running back that's a capable starter or a legit starter like a Dalvin Cook, who you don't have to overuse him, and maybe you do have a rookie who ends up being pretty damn good, you're playing with house money at that point. Yeah. You're playing at house money at that point. And where if heaven forbid a Dalvin Cook goes down, then you still have those guys. A Raheem Mostert goes down, the train keeps going. The bandwagon keeps going. It doesn't break down. You're not stalling out or trying to sign a running back all of a sudden in the midseason who would be a third stringer somewhere else. I think it's important or that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. But for me, Well, the reason why it also is a perspective for me about signing a bell cow and signing someone who's a 3-down back is the experiences we had in December. If you force yourself, if in cold weather, going into Kansas City, going to anywhere you're going to go, you need that element of that works. And as you said, if you don't beef up the offensive line, because we all think the offensive line still needs to improve, you need a good running back who could, as you've always said with Derrick Henry, all 4 offensive line, superstar running back, doesn't matter. This running guy, I understand we got 7 yards of carry against Buffalo, whatever. This running group with this offensive line, we're not sure. Dalvin Cook with this offensive line, he'll still be an elite runner in this league. So for me,
well, here's the main thing. I don't want to put the, because let's say he does sign, right, and then he doesn't, and those numbers don't, like, he had 1,100 yards for 4 years, but let's say this year now he gets 900, and then next season somebody's gonna go, oh look, he didn't even get 1,000 yards for paying him $7 million. You got to look at the other end of it too. It's the same thing like I said, Bradley Chubb. When people look at just the numbers, they go, well, he didn't perform high tier numbers, or Sue, for instance, who was obviously, that's way out of there, the money. But what is a Dalvin Cook presence on the field going to do for a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle and a Tua? To know that you're not just having to worry about those 2 guys or those guys here, you're worried about the backfield as well now. And he might have, let's say it's not 1,100 yards, let's say it's 900 yards with 6 touchdowns at the end of the season, but it's what he did for Dalvin Cook, for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua. And then also what those guys are going to do for him. Because when they go to fake the handoff or they go to do the handoff and they're paying attention to those guys, this guy breaks free. Or they go to fake the handoff, the corners, the safety, the linebackers choke up, and they go and take it over the top, Tyreek touchdown. That's the other aspect of it. I know we're going to say, oh, but imagine what he could do, his yardage. No, let's look past that for a second. Let's look at the other opportunities this would give.
The intangibles.
What this would give the offense, the opportunities to help these other guys to get that. Because, when, if you put for instance, like a Jeff Wilson, or let's say a Myles Gaskin, let's say that these 2 backs go down, and let's say A-Chain, you never know, but you put a Gaskin back there, they're not going to be afraid of stopping the run. They're going to be paying attention to the running backs and the receivers, and they're going to do exactly what they did after the 8-3 start. They're going to focus on that, and then we're going to start falling apart again, losing 5 straight. Tua's going to get hurt again. We're going to lose another, and we're going to lose the playoff game. But you add somebody like a Dalvin Cook, now they're respecting your running game. Now they can't just focus on a Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Cedric Wilson and whoever else, Robbie Anderson, Chosen Anderson. They're focused now on the running game too. So it adds that type of balanced offense, which is very important in today's NFL.
I 100% agree with you. Kat, if you don't sign a Dalvin Cook, and you have $13 million, who's out there now that hasn't been touched that you see that's on your radar that you rather let them go sign?
Man, we were naming names earlier. Not to say that these names will be available via mid-season or after the training camp, but take your pick. Who's out there right now that's a running back that's high name, that's a free agent? You got what? Cook, Elliott, Fournette,
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch of different names out there right now that, like I said, might not be available, but they're options, and they're cheaper options at this point.
That's fair. That is fair.
Our buddy Anthony Manzano hasn't made a comment yet, but he snuck in.
Anthony
what's
in
up,
the
buddy?
house. There he is.
Hey,
Anthony.
Cap.
So
Me and Cap were on another platform talking about this.
So
Honestly,
yours.
for
I
me,
put on paper.
I'm gonna be realistic. I understand.
Yeah, it's a
why
hot topic right now.
No, I'm gonna be realistic. I think, to me, I'm predicting this. I think, even though Dalvin wants to come to Miami, I think he ends up going to Dallas because that's a better. We have too many running backs on our roster already and stuff like that. They only have one guy on their roster, to be honest.
Yeah, but can I? Let me just. I'm sorry, Anthony. I just want to counter that for just a second, because I think the Jets would be more likely if there was another team, because he would get more of a starting role compared to Dallas, where they seem like that Tony Pollard is their guy. But let me ask you this, Anthony, and then Cap, you could follow up. It's because you brought up this name, Cap, but would you be against a Zeke Elliott? He's obviously not going to be your starting back, but as a short yardage back, would you be against it, Anthony?
I would rather have Fournette, who's way better at that than him.
Fair.
Yeah, he's a bigger body. He's more of a, goal line type of punch it in guy. Zeke, for me, is just,
I don't know, man.
He's
I'm
a
just
bigger
very.
version of Dalvin. That's what Zeke is. He's a bigger version of Dalvin Cook, to be honest.
You think Zeke is bigger than Dalvin?
Yeah.
Then what are we talking about? Sign Zeke Elliott right now. What's going on?
No, because
I'm with Leonard.
Dalvin is 5'9". Zeke is 5'11".
Really?
Yes.
He is bigger.
Short yardage, man. I went, and he's not your featured back. You just put him on short yardage situations with the running backs.
And honestly, if we get Zeke, I think the 3 running backs that are gone off the roster automatically are Gaskins, Ahmed, and
Wilson.
And what's his name? Not Wilson, Mostert.
You learn something new every day, man. I thought Cook was bigger than Elliott. Huh.
I want to give you all a different perspective.
Go ahead.
So my perspective is, if you think about it, the one struggle that, say, Buffalo had last year, yes, Josh Allen is their main runner, but that was also a problem for them. They've never been able to establish the running game. What happened to the Jets last year? They lost Breece Hall. I understand Zach Wilson, but they went down like this. Our offense, without a balanced attack, that hurts us. And I don't think that you're not going to see a Jeff Wilson or a Raheem. Maybe A-Chain will go off on a game, but none of these guys are 100-yard guaranteed.
They're
a game.
not consistent.
Dalvin Cook is going to get you 80 to 100 yards a game without even trying. So for me, that's the perspective. I want a star running back. I want elite player at that position.
Evan, let me ask you a question, Evan, real quick, and you guys please answer and follow up. But how did you feel about Chase Edmonds last season when we acquired him?
Waste of money.
How much was that wasted money?
$6 million.
The whole contract.
I didn't think he fit that.
The whole contract.
The whole contract. But no, because for me, he wasn't a star. So I think also, I believe he was signed before Tyreek, was he not? I believe he was done. Wasn't he signed before Tyreek, if I remember correctly? Before the trade for Tyreek?
I'm just saying the numbers in general. The numbers are very similar to this situation. How did that work out for us?
But
Chase Edmonds is not Dalvin Cook.
That's what I was going to say.
Never had a 1,100-yard season in the 4 straight Pro Bowls. There are 6 players in the NFL who have made the 4 straight Pro Bowls. I understand what it is, and Dalvin Cook is one of them.
So what happened against the Giants versus Minnesota?
He disappeared.
I think the scheme. I don't think the scheme. That's also a problem with that was also a problem I think with O'Connell, is that he was doing what Buffalo does with Diggs, is that it's too focused on Jefferson. I think that's our problem with our team. We're too focused on the wide receivers. You need to have a more balanced attack. That's what I think happened.
Evan,
they were a flawed team last year, Bob. They were a flawed team.
And this is where I've been saying this since the beginning. To be honest, I don't see us having a traditional running game like most people think it is. I think we're doing the short swing. The short passing game is going to be our running game with the running backs. Those are basically long running plays, basically like the swing passes and stuff like that, and the passes out to the flat for the running backs. Those are basically extended running plays and stuff like that. So I think that's what's gonna be our running game. In this offense.
Let me just say first, again, everybody who's tuning in, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, thank you all for tuning in. Watching Fins Bandwagon on the Fins Sports Network. We got Mr. Cap for Life and Anthony Manzano on the line. We're talking Dolphins and, of course, Dalvin Cook. Steve Malloy in the house of Real Talk, Fins Talk. He was saying Cook is a tough player, played with a shoulder injury most of the year. I just want to follow back up on like Cap's question about what happened with that game. I don't have it in front of me, but I just want to say, look, that's a fair question. And I don't have it in again with struggles and stuff. Everybody struggles. Everybody has an off game, and I don't know. I can't answer about what the play calls were and if it's taken away, like Evan was saying.
No, he was limited.
He was limited. But what I would say is that again, I'm not just looking at. I know Evan's talking about it's guaranteed, 80 yards or whatever. To me, it's bigger than that. It's the element of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle on your left and your right, and Dalvin Cook in the backfield. You're respecting the entire offense at that point, and if the offensive line is having a bad day, either Tua could dump it off to a Dalvin Cook or an A-Chain or a Raheem Mostert. Or, you could go ahead and do it over the top and dump it off to one of your other guys. It just creates a whole different element to your offense. That defense is now, it's going to be more difficult to defend.
See, and Bobby, this is why me and Cap talked about this on the Fins tailgate. I said this. I think A-Chain starts day one. I honestly don't trust the two guys we have on the roster in Mostert or Jeff Wilson. I don't trust them to stay healthy. They get injured. They either get injured in the middle of the season or the beginning of the season, and sometimes they miss the rest of the season or something like that. Something crazy like that. They have a freak injury where they miss the rest of the season, so I can't really trust them. And I'll give you stats of 3 games, and for A-Chain in college. For Georgia, the Georgia game, he went against Georgia last year. He ran for 450 yards, received for 90 yards, and total touchdowns was 4 touchdowns, 1 receiving and 3 rushing. Against Alabama, his sophomore year, the year before, he ran for 250 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is against one of the best defenses in college, and against LSU when he was a freshman when Burrow was there. He ran on that defense for 190 yards and 5 touchdowns.
I think the McDaniel is going to fall. If you give him A-Chain and Dalvin Cook for a guy who's a run game coordinator, for me, it makes a very big difference. For me, I truly believe. But in the end, time will tell, right? Time will tell. We're going to play it out. The moment it happens, Bobby and I already have it ready to go. We'll be live in 30 seconds, and you guys are going to jump back on with us.
Could I ask you guys? Could I ask you guys about the defense specifically? Is there one either young player, like 2 young players on the roster that can benefit from him having Jalen Ramsey on the team? They're not that are not the obvious.
Who can benefit from having Jalen Ramsey
on the roster, on the defensive roster, that are not the obvious, like young.
Not Xavier Howard or someone a young
not
player.
Holland, not Howard.
No, I'm talking about the young players that are like second and third year guys, like
Kohu, Trill Williams, maybe Igbenogany, who Xavier Howard has really
Nick Needham
was throwing him out there in regards of how he's been playing. First, let me say hi to Rob of DolphinsThirsty.com. If you're thirsty for Dolphins content, go check out DolphinsThirsty.com.
I see Cam Smith, to be honest.
Sure. Well, that's true. Well,
for sure.
But that would be an easy one. That would be that's.
But for me, overall, I have to make a point. The person who's going to benefit from it, and not the obvious, the benefit of Xavier Howard is the fact that Xavier Howard now realizes that he's no longer number 2.
Texans fan in the house.
He's no longer one. He's no longer number 1.
He doesn't have to rove.
Number 2. The structure of the defense is going to be completely different. It's going to be completely different. I can't even spell Tyreek Hill. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's how you spell Tyreek Hill, Alex. Oh, yeah. But no, for me, the overall defense is going to be completely changed by the Jalen Ramsey trade. Because for me, the overall structure, to have that confidence, to know that you have 2 guys, like I'm not afraid to go face Buffalo. I wasn't afraid last year. I'm for sure not this year. Because you have multiple options to cover Diggs. They don't have a second real option there. Gabe Davis doesn't scare you. There's no. Yes, they have the guy in the middle, but then the guy they drafted, Dalton Kincaid, I believe it was. But even Dalton Kincaid, if they start him, Howard can cover Diggs, and then you can move Jalen Ramsey to go cover via safety, and you can move Kohu to like. There's so many elements you can do. Like that's why for me the way the structure of the team is. Why if we didn't sign Jalen Ramsey, we still even with Vic Fangio, we'd be hard on the defense. So for me, every position. We're talking about linebacker. Every position should have an elite player. Yes, are we solidified on the offensive line? Probably not. But we have an elite left tackle. We have on the defensive line, on the linebacker, on the outside edge, we have stars. On the linebacker core, yeah. So the key areas I'm most worried about right now for me are linebacker and running back. I'm less worried about the offensive line. I think the depth of if we start for me, it's sort of like what Bobby has said with Derrick Henry. I said this earlier. If you get a star running back, then you don't have to fix the offensive line as much. That's just my perspective on it.
Yeah, if you get a Dalvin Cook or so you're saying if we get like a Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry, we don't really have to worry about the offensive line because they're so elite. Their talent is so elite.
Yeah, because I think we have enough to do it. Because even if Eichenberg, the blessing in disguise for me about the minicamp, but Williams not being there, is that they actually got to try out Eichenberg at center, and he actually seemed to do well. I like the versatility of the fact that a lot of our linemen can play multiple positions. Hunt can go to right tackle. Robert Jones could play guard and tackle. Isaiah Wynn could play. It could be a swing tackle and also go into guard. The fact that Eichenberg can go into jiffy with Dan Feeney and play guard and play center, I want guys who are versatile on this offensive line. Because in the
Are you content with the line right now, Evan?
Am I content with the line? I'm content with the line. I'm not satisfied with the line. Only with the current running core. Like I just said, if you sign Dalvin Cook, I'm happy with the offensive line. If you don't sign Dalvin Cook and you stay with the existing offensive line and the existing running back group, I'm not happy with it. Unlike what Bobby has said, I'm not satisfied with I'm not content with the running back room because
so A-Chain is the question mark for you.
No, A-Chain is the only positive I have. I like Mostert, but Mostert's going to get injured. Jeff Wilson sort of teetered off at the end of the year. My biggest concern is actually Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is not going to adjust to the offensive line, to the running game, even just with A-Chain, who's a rookie. He wants a star. A-Chain could become a star one day, but he's not a star yet.
So let me ask you this, follow-up for Bobby, too. Do you think that we need to focus more on that game plan or focusing more on force-feeding 2,000 yards to Tyreek?
That's a good question. That's a great question.
Yeah. Tyreek has the attitude. No, for me, I'm going to answer this, Bobby, if I want to go first. Cap, to be honest, if you're not force-feeding, Tyreek is one of these type of receivers that he complains that he doesn't – he's like an Antonio Brown. He has to have the ball in his hands all the time. So if you're not force-feeding him the ball and you're focusing on the running game with a Dalvin Cook, Tyreek is going to complain. He's going to cause drama in the locker room, to be honest.
No, I think
because Tyreek Hill did well.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Cap. Let me just respond. I don't think Tyreek will. I know he said that's a goal of his, but I don't think that's something he wants to win. He wants to win. He wants to prove he could win without a Pat Mahomes. That's what he wanted last year. He saw he can almost get. He had 1,800 yards last year, and he, but I can't see Tyreek Hill saying if we're winning games with a balanced attack, oh well, I want the ball. I'm not at 2,000 yards. And just to answer Cap's question, I would focus more on the game plan, Cap, than force feeding Tyreek.
I agree. I think Tyreek is helping us out. I think Tyreek's just playing possum. Like, yeah, you guys think that's going to happen. I think the complete opposite. I think they're going to use him more in gadget plays as well.
No, the reason why Evan, Bobby, and Cap, the reason why I say that, elite receivers like that have that attitude where, like he's like, to be honest, Tyreek has that he's a diva type receiver where he needs to have the ball all the time. So you really think he's gonna allow Dalvin to take?
Let me ask you this, Anthony, and let me say this very quick. Rob, he was asking for Michael Vogel. He got stuck, family stuff. He's doing his own thing, but he'll be back, I hope, next week.
You missed my joke. Everyone, if you missed my joke, Mike Vogel, I love him. He's like a brother, but he's like the Dolphins, like we're last season. He's consistently inconsistent.
So, but I will just say, and then still deny, I don't want 2099 first-round pick for Tyreek and Waddle. No. But no, I don't know where you're getting that he's a diva receiver. I've never gotten that from in a good way. He's a diva receiver because of
no. What I mean by diva receiver is these receivers that need to have that he was complaining when he had in the passing game when Patrick was focusing a lot on what's his name Travis Kelce. You can see on the sidelines that Tyreek would get pissed that he was getting ignored and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. And Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook are on two different levels. Let's be honest. That's an unfair comparison, to be honest.
I'm not sure, Rob. I don't know why do I have emojis popping up? I'm
I
not
have
sure.
nothing. Someone could be pop. Because someone, if you're on YouTube, can pop emojis.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Because look at what happened to him. Besides the money, he actually he said that he wasn't getting enough passes because Patrick was focusing on Travis Kelce so much and stuff like that. So
But I think,
you really think he's going to be okay with taking what is it called? Dalvin Cook taking carries, like the ball out of it. Not what is it called? Not carries. What's the term?
Just taking the balls out of his hands.
Yeah, taking the ball out of his hand.
Well, he didn't get upset if Waddle. There were certain games where Waddle had a lot more receptions than him.
True.
He wants to win. This is a guy where I don't try. There's always a little bit of truth to what he's saying. The same way everyone truly believed that when he said he didn't understand a word of the offense last year, but he somehow still picked up 1,800 yards and he was winging it. No one truly believes that, right? There's always a hint.
So you don't think he's gonna be like you don't think he's gonna be like a Terrell Owens where he complains?
Not at all.
No, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think he's content with his life, bro, and I think he really wants to help this team any way possible.
I agree.
And also, he wants to. He's just talked about how he only wants to play 2 or 3 more seasons. He may be just showing shade there, but if he wants to play only 2 or 3 more seasons, he wants to win a Super Bowl. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, he'll do whatever he needs to win a Super Bowl. But
is everybody hearing that feedback, or is it just me?
Yeah.
That's probably me. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I just want to make sure I'm not going crazy on my mic.
Before we head out in about 5 minutes, we have another great show coming up next with this annoying troll by the name of Alex Brown on No Holds Barred.
I don't know. I think I just deleted that episode. I don't know. He's talking too much. I'm just kidding.
I want about the fact that you want the biggest shade I think that was thrown on the Miami Dolphins today. I don't know if we should take it as a compliment or an insult, Captain Anthony. Was that today? Colin Cowherd predicted. I'm going to give you a few quick quotes that the Miami Dolphins were going to win the AFC East. And he goes on to explain the fact that the whole Stephon Diggs canceled minicamp thing is bigger than people are letting on. That is weird. But the fact that Vic Fangio's defense, the people I trust in the league say that he's the best acquisition Miami made, not Jalen Ramsey. He said, watch the defense is getting copied all over the league. And the biggest plus he actually said, he actually knocked down McDermott, was that I get an offensive coach in Mike McDaniel against a defensive coach like Sean McDermott. And I watched Mike McDaniel outcoach him 3 times last year, and I think Miami is better than him last year. I'm not sure what Buffalo is, which is actually true. We almost beat him where we basically gave most of those games away, the last 2. So for me, overall, what do you think of Colin Cowherd? You think he's just trying to hedge his own bet, or do you actually believe what he's actually saying?
The guy talks out of both sides of his mouth. I don't trust anything Cowherd says, to be honest.
No. But do you believe
he's a weasel? He's the type of guy. He's like Skip Bayless. Can you trust anything Skip says?
Well, look. The only thing that I say is that this guy is really connected with Vegas, and that's why I think something he knows that we don't know, and that's why I think this Dalvin Cook talk is not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, but for me overall, the one thing that is true is that we're not bored of Miami Dolphins talk, and that they're going to be a topic of conversation. And also the one for me, right now, people are still unsure of the Miami Dolphins because we made it to the playoffs last year. What's going to happen with Tua? That's for me why another star player is going to make a very big difference in that position. Because all people are going to say the moment we sign a bell cow running back, and if it would have been a Derrick Henry at the time, or was Dalvin Cook, or even I think John J. Swift was a nice player. Dalvin Cook, they're going to say how great this is going to be for Tua, and how great this is going to help him develop as a quarterback this year. And I'm telling you, the next day, the moment they sign Dalvin Cook, people are going to say the next day that the Dolphins are at the level of Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati.
Evan, you don't remember Cowherd was saying the complete opposite. Now all of a sudden you change your tune. He knows something.
Of course he knows something.
That's fair.
He's always been hard on the Dolphins. For me, in the end, I always believed this was going to be Tua's year, this 4th year. I truly believe that the team is built for success, but we're missing something. Whether it's getting another star offensive lineman, but for me, I want this team to be more fun, and I believe that. But I'd rather have the running back than the offensive line personally, because in December that running back could actually make the biggest difference. They can win you a football game. They can also lose you a football game. And so for me, I'm more confident in Tua with Dalvin Cook there, giving him a balanced attack. Because also, you want the big difference was, and we all have images of it. Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, Javon A-Chain probably is, but the 4 running backs besides A-Chain are not great pass catchers. Dalvin Cook is actually a very good pass catcher. So for me, that makes a difference for me. And that, remember, Bobby, how many times was I losing it on you every time that I knew it was 3rd and 2? And what was Mike McDaniel doing? Those godforsaken slants to Waddle and Hill on the sideline. And before the ball even got to them, the lineman was literally tattooing them. That's what I want to get away from.
That's what everybody wanted. Jet sweeps. Everybody wanted jet sweeps. Jet sweeps here. Jet sweeps there.
Didn't work. And for me, Hopkins doesn't scare me. Let him go. I'm not worried about D-Hop going there. It's like, for me, it's the equivalent of.
If they had Tom Brady, I'd be nervous. I'm not nervous about.
I'm not worried about Mac Jones. I am not worried at all. Yeah. I am not worried at all. So for me, I'm not worried about it. Also because he's one weapon. I'm not to have one weapon.
I feel like Rob on Real Talk Fin Stop, man.
Yeah. No, for me, it doesn't bother me at all. For me, guys,
just playing Steve.
No, guys, it's really for me. How many yards did he go for against Miami? Maybe 60 or 70, but he won't win you a game. He's not going to game the same way Tyreek Hill won't win you a game on his own. He needs the balanced attack of Waddle, and that's what made us successful. So for me, that's the most important thing. We're getting close to the end. I know I have to jump off to go help out Alex and the boys, but someone's laughing there. I don't know.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing at Rob because he said booby. No. All right. I'll take it.
Any final words, Cap and Bob, before we call it a show? And you're welcome back anytime, buddy.
Guys. Appreciate you guys as always, man. Bobby, Evan, Ant, man. Pleasure as always, guys. And another month and a half, boys.
Yeah, 89 days, guys. 89 days. We're counting down the clock. Everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bobby, thank you for joining us tonight. You're always a pleasure. We always like to have some fun. I'm much calmer. I wasn't screaming. I was negative. I was very positive tonight on the Bandwagon Show. Guys, don't go away from the Finstock Sports Network. We've got a great show coming up with No Holds Barred. Come support all the shows on the network. Thank you again. You'll see us here next week, hopefully with Michael Vogel back in the hot seat. And we'll have some fun. And Dolphins Thirsty, you are now off the bandwagon. You say one more thing about my expos. I will start the premiere episode of Foul Ball will be ripping the Red Sox for the rest of the season. Now, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. And always, like we always like to say, fins up.
Fins up, everyone. That's awesome.